Cheers.
I'm still waiting on Samsung sticks. Cheers.
Wow, no, right when we're filming. Wow.
Sad.
Choices. That's the tea. Do we have a soft opening yet besides berating Samson? I don't think it's a good thing to have the opening be berating your editor.
Berating our editor is probably hot for a lot of people.
Samson, are you into that?
Dirty, filthy editor, you.
Roll the opening.
Hello!
Welcome back to
What's Safeword?
I'm Am.
I'm Mr. Christopher.
And today...
I have no idea what we're doing.
We're crunching the numbers, we're putting together a census. Today we are going through our yearly Kinky Census that we do. Now we've done this 2 times before, this will be our 3rd time, where we put out kind of a little survey where we don't collect your private or personal information, but we ask you guys questions based around the kink community, things that have changed, maybe your favorite kinks. And for 2023, I feel like there's no better way to start than to talk about the findings from the end of the year survey that we did this last year.
I thought the U.S. Census was every 10 years.
Well, we're the Kinky Census, and we just never stop. We keep coming and coming and coming.
Don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming.
Oh, wow.
C-O-M-E.
Copyright claim.
No. The first time we did it, we had just over 1,000 people. The second time we did it, we had about 2,000 people. And the third time we did it, guess how many people we had?
3,000 people!
Wrong. 3,119 people as of filming this video.
A few minutes later.
Oh, damn it. One more person. 3,120. My data. And of course, before we get into this, we cannot do this without thanking our sponsors, HELIX Sleep, who make sure that we are not only crunching the numbers, but counting the sheep.
And fully rested for these.
And we can also not do today's episode without thanking Zipper Magazine, who helped us to not only get these numbers together, share the census itself, and had a little conversation with the head chief and editor, Sunny Megatron, on our podcast. Sunny, what is Zipper Magazine, if people are curious?
We are a online digital magazine all about kink that is suitable for work, you know, more mainstream focus, but that talks about the stuff like you and I are talking about right now, like the digging past like the stereotypes and the sensationalism and the all toms act like this and all toms act like this, and get down to the real meat of the matter and the nuance and clearing up those misconceptions. And I absolutely love like this new role in my life, being the editor-in-chief of Zipper Magazine that I helped create and run in conjunction with Clips for Sale, because I get access to more of the community as a whole. If I can have more of a platform as an educator and through Zipper Magazine to get some of that cohesion about like, what are we all about out there? Yes. So that was my shameless plug of Zipper Magazine and how it ties into what we're talking about.
So without further ado, let's get into the census. Title card, editor, go. And what better way to start a census but from looking from the top down? Hi, bottoms.
The top's right here.
Hi, bottoms. So where we started with this census was just asking people their gender identity, sexual identity, age, where they came from. And I really don't think it's a big surprise that, as you can see here, Daddy, our biggest demographic are the guys. Mm-hmm.
Do you know these gays? Do you know these gays? Gay.
Which totally makes sense, because we're gay guys.
Yeah, and so it would be stupid of us not to recognize that. But I will say that...
I don't know what I'm doing.
Apparently having gay sex. But I will say that this was spread and shared pretty far and wide, like a party bottom that gets passed around.
In my little gay bubble, I just always thought men were watching us.
Followed closely by women at 27%.
Women, I remember being surprised by this 2 years ago, probably when we first did our first census.
Which makes sense, but I love that our audience and our community has grown to beyond that, because at 3rd place there, we had 19.4% of the people taking the survey are non-binary, and then gender fluid was 4th, but we have literally 13 pages of other identities that people have put in there, because that's very valid. But you can see kind of how it's broken down, and not super surprising, again, with your gender.
But 20% non-binary. That's a big surprise for me.
Well, but that's what's good about these censuses, though, is I bet there's going to be some information here that surprises even you, because...
All information surprises me.
Well, that's... Speaking of information, how about identifying sexually? We asked that as well, and we asked people to click all that applied because sometimes people can find that their sexuality and how they look at that identity does change there. And it's, again, not surprising. What's number one, Daddy?
Gay. Gay, gay, gay.
Hi, gay.
Bye. Bye, bye, bye. Isn't that the song? Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye.
You keep saying goodbye and you have not left yet.
Miss Angie.
After that was the more aspec people, then trans, then non-binary, then cis, and down from there. Again, multiple pages because there's so many different ways people identify. And then some people also don't know how to follow a survey where I said, please enter one-word answers, and instead they said things with ands and dashes,
right.
and it didn't really help. But this actually is where the first amount of feedback is really important because as I was putting this survey together, I did peer review it and talk to not only our Discord community, but talk to people. I was live streaming and kind of just asking for feedback literally on it. And people were kind of upset that we included trans as a way for people to identify sexually. And that was something that was specifically asked for and by trans people that were peer reviewed in this study because some people do have a very, very personal way in which they sexually identify. And I just want to be clear that we do take that feedback, but we're also making sure that we're allowing people to identify that the way that they feel.
And 15% were happy with that.
Yeah, but there were a few naysayers that said that's not right. That's not how I identify as a trans person. And that's valid, but doesn't mean that that's how everyone in that community identifies, you know? From there, we asked how old you all were. Hi, old. And the highest demographic there was 25 to 34, second place being 18 to 24, and third place being 35 to 44.
So all you 55 to 65-year-olds, which is my box, get on YouTube. They just don't know how to they don't know the YouTube.
Sure,
that's
fair.
it. They don't know how to do the YouTube.
From there, the demographics of where you lived, the first, of course, being...
United States, 54%, over half.
And all of 9 people said they were from Antarctica, which I really appreciated.
Wow, we reach Antarctica?
I know.
Wow.
But another case of feedback here. Feedback alert. I did have a few people from New Zealand say that there was no place for them to enter it in there. And they don't like being called Australian, so I apologize, New Zealanders.
No, Kiwis hate that.
I'm sorry. I was just putting the...
I know that.
I was putting the basic,
No.
continents. I'm sorry.
No.
I should have put space, too, for all those space gays. I'm so sorry. After getting into the nitty-gritty of the demographics, then we broke down relationship types and how people leaned into their roles, whether it was top, bottom. Did you really? No, get it. And so we asked what you guys liked or preferred in the bedroom as far as your position, and I think it's especially interesting that at 44.1% of ya,
Y'all are bottoms.
well, what do you think was second there, Daddy, without looking at our details?
More bottoms.
No.
Verse.
Yes, verse was second place and top was third, but the undecided was not far from the top there. And feedback alert, people would love to see more terms specifically involved with non-penetrative sex in the bedroom. For instance, sides, people that don't really have the penetration part of the sex, but are still interested in like having the fun of the sex and the intimacy sometimes.
What would you call the side? What would you call it?
So a side in the sexual sense is an individual who doesn't enjoy giving or receiving anal penetration. Instead, they prefer less invasive sexual acts.
So it is called side.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, was that not clear?
No. I was asking what the side was called.
Not the left, not the right. This next piece of info I actually think is one of my favorite questions that was asked in this because I asked if you considered yourself disabled, neurodivergent, or you had some sort of chronic illness that affected you. Because I think that when we talk about sex and kink, we sometimes tend to forget that people might have a disability in some way or just some sort of barrier that makes sex or kink a little bit difficult or different.
And that's like almost 60% said yes.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's a lot.
Why don't we have more neurodivergent or disability-related education going on here?
Oh.
And literally, as I posted this survey, I also was asking people topics they wanted to hear in the new year. And one person said they wanted to see more disability discussions, which was followed up by, why do people keep asking for this? We have no way to tell how big the community is when it comes to disabilities or neurodivergency.
Not true. We have a whole census.
So while, again, we're not a scientific fact here, this is a wonderful way that we get to ask and talk about our community that we have data on now. Like, that's not something we made up. These are 3,000 people telling us that over half have some sort of disability, neurodivergency, or chronic illness.
Y'all are data points.
Well, they're more than that, Daddy, but thank you for being a data point.
Dirty, dirty little data points. If I talk dirty to them, is that better?
Some of them are probably into it, yeah. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Well, actually,
Let's look at the data. Let's look at the data. How about when it comes to monogamy? It looks like 48.5% of you said nope.
Nope.
But almost as much said unsure when they versus yes. Like,
how are you unsure if you're monogamous?
maybe you haven't had more than a monogamous relationship.
Sure.
Or maybe you don't know if, do I need monogamy? Am I wanting monogamy? Do I consider myself, or maybe they don't even know what monogamous means. Like that means you have a committed relationship with just one person. And we're not monogamy shaming as much as some people might think that that's what we're like giving you right now. No, monogamy is absolutely valid. And we follow up by asking people what their preferred ideal relationship style and type is. And if you look here, monogamous is actually the #1 result there with 35% of people. Polyamory came second there, open relationships third, strictly monogamous and closed was fourth at about 12.4%. So our audience does know what monogamy is sometimes and knows specifically what ideal relationship they would like, which is sometimes that.
Very curious about what the other is.
So that's one thing that when putting together surveys, if you don't have an other spot, people get really upset. Because, and it's valid, like people don't know, as we've seen.
But I want to know what the other is.
No, but they don't know. They're somewhere in between.
Is this like a side?
Of the pillow, because the other side of the pillow, in the middle of the night, you flip it over, and it's just nice and cold.
And HELIX knows that.
Speaking of sides, regardless of which side of the bed you sleep on, today's census and kinky information is brought to you by
He needs some milk.
HELIX sleep.
because they know that everyone's different.
I cracked myself up.
And they know that because they have the HELIX Sleep Quiz. Now, HELIX Sleep has been one of our longest running sponsors here on the channel, and HELIX makes it easy for you to find the mattress for you using their HELIX Sleep Quiz. For you, yourself, or you and a partner. Now again, you can do for one sleeper or two, enter in their names, their heights, their weights, as well as sleeping positions. So me and Daddy might have different kinds of sleep positions, maybe even firmness preferences. And if you happen to be like us, who are a little older, we do have body aches and pains that we can also specify. Lord knows my knees will never be the same since COVID. But we ended up with a what, Daddy? A dusk?
Lux!
And, Daddy, how are you enjoying it?
I love my dust lux. Say that 3 times fast.
Dust
lux. Dust lux. Dust lux.
Yep. And since getting our mattresses, I've actually never had sleep that was this good. I had an old mattress that had some springs in it, and because HELIX has springs and this lovely like cushioning sensation, they're not only the best mattress for sex, but they're just the best mattress to get a good night's sleep.
And before I got this mattress, I had my other mattress for over 10 years.
Plus, HELIX not only ships to you very, what, Daddy?
Quickly.
Some scissors or...
Oh my God! I got it.
And when you're ready to really let it inflate. Do not try this at home. What do, Daddy?
Ooh, it's the opposite of a vacuum rack. It goes, ready? It's eating me! Whoa!
If you've ever bought a mattress, there is that nagging sensation of like, ooh, is this the right mattress for me? I don't know if I like this. So we especially like that they have what, Daddy?
100-night sleep trial.
So over 3 months for free that you get to try it out. And if you don't like it, you can ship it back and you get a free refund.
And don't forget, HELIX has a 10-year warranty.
And they even offer financing options and flexible payment plans. So
if you go to HELIX Sleep today and use offer code WATT, you get up to $200 off your mattress and some free pillows on us. Whether choosing a side or just getting on your side of the bed.
Not my bad side.
I'm always on your bad side.
Not always.
And a wonderful little segue from talking about relationships to kinks, we also asked, have you ever had a partner with sexual desires you weren't into or couldn't fulfill?
Yes.
Well, more than half, 52.2% said yes.
Yeah, of course.
For instance?
I had a partner that was into latex, like only latex, and I couldn't do it.
Well, what was the last stretch? And I've been that partner that had the sexual desires that my partner couldn't fulfill. But then later on in life, I also had a partner that was very kink shamey and couldn't get into bondage. And so like, I understand that this is a thing, but when following up, the next part of the survey is where we really get into the nitty gritty of that.
But I want to get back to that.
Okay.
No was 47%. That seems really high to me.
It does. but there was no unsure or maybe somewhere in between there.
why didn't you put that?
I don't, because I
Come
like
for
to
him.
make, no! Feedback alert. People were like upset to the point where they sent us an email and they're like, God damn it, I had to think about this one because there was no unsure or other option.
Right.
But I really appreciated that because it made me think about my relationship style. It made me think about the kinks I have and the people that I've had, whether it was with those kinks or not.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Quiet. This next part of the survey deals with the tops and the bottom kinks of the week. Bring back my squirrels.
Look, squirrel.
So again, this part is where we get into one-word answers. I really need some of you guys to learn how to count because some of these answers were not one-word answers and it made going through this data so difficult, like parsing this data. But we asked to follow up if you had a partner that was never into your kinks. We asked if you answered yes, using a one-word answer, what was that desire, that kink, or that fetish that could not be reciprocated? And for these questions, I put together little word bubbles of the top answers and how much they actively came up in the conversation. So the first and most unreciprocatable was
Water sports, and that's understandable because you may be into your pee, but somebody else may not be.
they might be a little pissed, in fact, if you
They,
try to.
they call it being pee shy for a reason.
But it's also one of those kinks that you can kind of test the waters, pun intended, when you're in the shower. No, have you ever had a partner that just peed on you and then it was either funny or silly or sensual and then you kind of had a conversation from there?
No, I've had people go white when you even said you peed in the shower.
Yeah, but why? Because it's all going to the same place.
Well, I know, we tell them that.
Other things that pop up in this word bubble that really stand out?
Anal. Penetrative sex is not for everyone.
True, but I was personally surprised that was like one of the top
No,
ones.
I think that, and I think that's very common misconception, especially on Grindr and Scruff. You know, I know a lot of people there don't want to F-U-C-K. They want to be intimate in other ways.
No, it's true. So when looking at all the words, again, I had to kind of parse, I had to make sure that like with water sports, if someone said pee, piss, any of the other variations of how you spell it, I did get all that data in there.
Okay.
But water sports was 6.2% of people saying they could not reciprocate.
Yeah.
Scat was 5.7%. Anal again, 4.1%. ABDL, not surprising it was there, but kind of disappointed.
I think because a lot of people associate ABDL with scat.
Yeah, and diapers. Feet are popular, but also, gross for some people. Fisting, and then CNC was kind of one of the top ones as well. And I kind of understand each of them. Each of them has a stigma or shame around it.
Well, and fisting, either your anatomy can take it or they can't. So
Yeah, and some people are not hands-on. After that question, we asked about the different dynamics being unfulfilled and how people dealt with that disconnect. And it's really unfortunate. I did a word bubble for that too. And the biggest word was
Relationship.
which meant usually they ended the relationship or didn't. So they didn't work it out. And that's so disheartening.
Well, it is, but also if you're not aligned with your fetishes and kinks, and especially if you're monogamous and not aligned, that can be very hard for a relationship.
But when scrolling through, some really interesting ways that people dealt with it included we both had subs to deal with it, which I love.
Right.
We focused on the desires that we could fulfill. Mm-hmm. That's great.
That's healthy.
One person met in the middle. And my favorite was we just decided not to play together and watched a movie instead.
Yeah, I mean, if it helps your relationship, do it.
Or if it's just an easy way to say, you know what, we don't work out, we're not going to be compatible. Would you like to hang out and watch a nice movie?
Because here they are. GuyMC Theaters.
Nothing wrong with that. Next was, in one word answer, we want to know your biggest turn on, your biggest kink, the thing that you're really into, like what gets you going. Daddy, what is yours?
Mine would be power play dynamics.
Oh, okay. Mine would probably be either bondage, puppy play, or hypno, personally. And if that were the case, I would have most of the audience on my side because 8.7% of the word bubble
contest.
is... No, I know it's not, but it's interesting to see that bondage is the literal
Of
biggest
course,
word.
and I like bondage too, but you can use bondage in power play dynamics.
True, and domination and submission are in that bubble as very big words.
Yes. You can
As
use
are
bondage in
pups.
most fetishes.
True. And I think that's why it is the top answer. It's easy to get into. It's easy to try. It's also one of the most intimate ways to get to know someone as you're doing kink stuff because you touch, you feel, you check in.
And it forces you to trust your partner.
Well, no, it doesn't.
Forces
You should
you.
never force to
Forced
trust.
trust.
No.
That's bondage.
Impact play.
Yay! Impact play!
Put me down.
Submission and domination were both at the top as well, around 2% each. And I think they're kind of the same coin, but different sides. And then water sports was up there as a favorite kink.
It is.
Along with leather, fisting, chastity, humiliation, and pain. And I wanted to contrast your biggest kink of all with the kink that really made you excited in the new year by asking your biggest turn on or kink of 2022. And again,
Bondage!
Doesn't surprise me, but there was a big standout with puppy play in this one.
Oh, puppy play is growing.
Again, bondage right around 8%, puppy play at 3.6%, and pet play, I want to be very specific. People were talking about pup play specifically to get to that percentage, but there were so many different pet plays, ponies, cats. I saw a few dragons and lizards in the list. So pet play itself was a bit more even, but puppy play really stood out.
Okay.
Followed by impact play, chastity, fisting.
Ooh, chastity's growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's probably your fault, too.
Why is that my fault? If it was my fault, Hypno would be at number 1.
Oh, Hypno's not even on there.
Hypnosis is in the word bubble, but it's
Okay.
not the top, you know?
Okay.
So like, the more big the word and the more blue the word, the more prevalent it was in our survey.
You will like Hypno.
I already like Hypno.
Hypno will be
This is
your
the worst.
new fetish.
What?
Yeah, follow my finger. Smell my finger.
No.
Pull my finger.
Absolutely not. It's the worst Hypno ever. You are going to like, comment, and subscribe.
Down below.
Subscribe
Down
if you want,
below.
you know. But subscribe.
Down
Do it
below.
now if you want. Following that up, we asked you guys just what you considered the most odd or weird kink, and we do that without kink shaming. We're not being rude, but we wanted to know like what you thought was odd or strange, and odd ones that I saw while going through that.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of time stop fetishing?
No, but I feel like that happens every time I do this show with you.
Are you into it?
I don't know.
You're gonna pause this video right now, aren't you? Time stop, I feel like, is when like
I don't
someone
even
is
know what it is.
frozen in time and then they get played with. I've seen porn.
That's
before.
time stop?
Yeah, like people like frozen in time, you know, but you can still like touch and feel them. It's not a real thing, but it's something people like play and role play through. Feedback alert! On this question specifically, I got an email saying I would have loved a question to see how many people considered themselves to engage in kink in a sexual versus non-sexual way, and then also a separate but they realized unrealistic thing where like we had little bubbles that said like if you're into this kink and how much.
Yeah, that sounds complicated. I'm out.
You didn't do any of this.
I know. I'd still be out.
And of course, we can't cover census datas without talking a little bit about COVID still. This next section is all about how did that affect your sex life and kinks. So we asked specifically, since COVID, are you more or less kinky? How would you say?
I'm about the same.
The majority of people, about a third of the entire survey, said that they were right in the middle of solid 5. From 0 to 10, same.
I found different ways to be kinky. So like I perfected power dynamics through Skype and
Sure.
long distance relationships like that. But I don't think it made me kinkier.
Well, most people agreed with you there and were the same, but when looking at the whole data, I don't mind looking at the whole or the data, more people leaned towards more kinky as well, with the second place of that survey being 10. So people were far more kinky after COVID.
Interesting.
And of course, no census data is without us asking about your personal sex ed journey. That leads to the next question, which was on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being non-existent to 10 being the absolute best sex education, a majority of the census was right at a 2, which is not good.
That's not good. 2 or 3.
2 to 3, yeah. So it was definitely all over the place, which is kind of interesting because there's no definitive there, but it did lean more towards the bad.
A lot of people learned about the birds, but not the bees.
Yeah, they're not very good about the insects.
They got the birds, not the stingy.
So again, only 1.9% of the survey said that they had, oh my god, phenomenal sex ed, which is not a lot of people. And we even had a short answer form of asking people for some of their wildest or strangest sex ed that they've had throughout the years.
Okay, I can't wait to hear strangest sex ed.
The first one, masturbation makes you grow hair on your palms. We've all heard that.
Oh,
right?
I remember that. But you know, that didn't deter me because I wanted to be hairy. I wanted hair.
No joke. Another person said the weirdest advice I got was that rubbing on my chest and face would make me grow body hair there.
Done. Like, make me
If
hairy.
only. And I honestly, I think I want to do another video where we just go through people's bad sex advice that they got. Because some of these things are so not only scary for information that you get in school, but like so wrong.
Like hairy scary.
Hair-raising even. Like this one. If you, under the act of God, penetrate a woman, you are committing to marrying her. Someone else said being homosexual will cause the extinction of all humans.
Only if everyone was homosexual.
I'm sure science will figure it out. You will get pregnant no matter what you do, so abstinence is the only way you won't. In parentheses, they never told us what abstinence was, so I thought it was a magical drug you could take.
No, that's PrEP.
And then this was my favorite and probably the funniest. From my dad, he said that you should never have sex on a waterbed because you will get motion sick. And then this last chunk, the very final part of the survey, was asking about people's involvement in the community and overarching, like, what you do, how you do it, where you're getting your info. And we asked people, how active are you in the kink community? 0 being not involved at all, and 10 being very involved. And the results are interesting. For a kink-specific survey, a lot of people are not super active in the community. And when we say community, we mean like doing events, like going to munches, teaching classes, doing in-person-y things or online things that involve using your time and your energy to give back to other people.
Where are we on the spectrum?
I think we're 10. I think we're very involved. But the majority of people were in that 0 to 3 range.
Oh.
They're not super involved in the community.
Well, I think that's because a lot of people are very private about their sex life. We live in a bubble that we can be outward about our sex and our kink.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, that isn't their entire identity as well. And they need to keep it private, especially for work sometimes.
Are you more involved online or in person? Online being 0, in person being 10. And if you look here, the online is 29.4% of y'all.
Yeah.
So most people are doing that online. So I wonder, and I wish I had asked, like, what do you consider community or something? And just because I thought it was funny, at the very end I asked if you were a robot. You know how you take a survey and like gives you a little checkbox to say if you're a robot?
Yeah, but usually you have to find the 3 traffic lights in the square.
Yeah, well, I didn't do that. But I did ask, and 96.3% of you said that you were not a robot. And 3.7% of you are either little brats or spam.
Brats.
Or
calling out the brats.
Into ASFR.
What's that?
People are into robot fetish.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. That's very binary of me.
Does not compute. Does not compute.
Some things don't compute with you, Daddy, and that's okay. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to learn. We're all here to be a part of a community, whether it's online or in person, and we're all just trying to figure ourselves out. So while some of you might have been unsure of where you lied on certain things, I hope that in the future, when we do this again, you're a bit more sure. Maybe we have better questions.
I always find graphs and statistics fascinating. A lot of times it's against what I think it really is. And then when you see a bar graph, you're like, oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, and as the feedback I got was very telling of, force people to really think about how they're involved in the community, what they're involved, what they're into, because we as humans change both sexually, but with our interests, what we're into, and how we want to give back too. So maybe this is a challenge for some of you guys to get more involved online or in person. And also a challenge to like give us questions for next time. What do you want us to ask? And just as a little side note, I did ask if y'all had Safeword. So if you are part of the 67% that said yes, good for you. But if you're part of the 33%, what can they use next time, Daddy?
Skynet.
Oh.
That's for 3% of robots out there.
Thankfully, only 43% of you have ever had to use a safe word, according to these stats.
Oh, wow.
So that's promising.
But also higher than I would like.
Yeah, but also shows responsibility, because using a safe word does not mean you failed.
No.
It means you're communicating properly.
Yes.
Hopefully.
But it would be good to get that number down.
True. But you know what number we'd like to get up?
Ours. So ring that bell down below so you can subscribe to this channel.
Leave a comment down below of any questions you think we should add to the survey next year.
And tell your friends about us. Share us. Get us out there.
And if you'd like to take the survey, while it is no longer the 2022 year, it is a way you can get on our mailing list for next time that we do it. So feel free to fill out the information. I've already saved the census, so you're not going to adjust anything. but also it's a way for you to get more information for next time.
Yeah, add to it. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye! Can anybody make sense of us?
No. I can't even make sense of us.
Don't forget to subscribe. Daddy, do the hypno thing.
Go ring that bell.
Please,
Ring that bell.
if you want.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling, ring
That's not the
that
sound a bell makes.
bell.